Crisis overlap, heading for collapse. Why CCP released the news that China has 6 million buildings. With China's booming economy and rapidly growing middle class, the country is facing a housing crisis that has left many struggling to afford a place to call home. Despite government efforts to address the issue, the housing market remains volatile and unaffordable for many. Will China be able to fix its housing crisis, or is this a problem that will continue to plague the country for years to come? Well, the Ministry of Housing and Construction recently announced that there are nearly 600 million of them. And we're not talking about individual homes here, but rather buildings containing multiple homes accommodating several people each. The Chinese government launched a new round of regulatory tightening which constrained the financial ability of developers like Evergrande, which is one of the top property developers in China. Late in 2021, after China's real estate market had been in a slump for some months, the government gave the industry another severe blow by imposing limitations on the finances of both home buyers and developers. Since then, housing prices have been falling, and investment reached an all-time low in 2022 after years of steady decrease. Since China's overall economic outcome and the finances of local governments are gravely threatened by a depressed housing sector, the Chinese government has begun taking steps to rescue the industry as early as the beginning of 2022. Two questions are important. First, there is the question of whether or not the efforts of the Chinese government's policymakers will be able to revive China's real estate sector without causing yet another wave of price increases. Second, what does this imply for China's long-term economic growth and its economic recovery after COVID? Since the year 1998, when China first began to implement its market-oriented housing reforms, the real estate industry has been one of the most important economic drivers in the country. According to the government's estimation, the contribution of the sector to China's GDP in 2022 will be between 13 and 14%. However, some experts believe that the contribution would be between 17 and 29%. Because of its connections to a wide variety of participants in the housing market, including home buyers, developers, financial institutions, suppliers of construction materials, contractors, and numerous service providers, the sector can exert a more widespread influence on the economy. Even more significantly, the prosperity of the local real estate market is crucial to the local government's financial health. Despite the rises and falls in house prices since the late 1990s, China's real estate market has been developing at a quick pace since that time. In 2010, the average home price-to-income ratio of 50 major Chinese cities reached 12.5, which was higher than that of 23 out of 25 global cities included in a survey of large cities conducted by 2022 UBS. These global cities included New York City, London, and Tokyo. In addition to worries regarding affordability, the government was aware of the possibility of property bubbles and related financial hazards. As a result, the government had already begun the process of implementing multiple rounds of regulatory measures to stabilize home prices. It is anticipated that China will, throughout a longer period, maintain its efforts to properly control the industry to maintain price stability in the housing market. The notion that housing should be used for living and not for speculative purposes has been reaffirmed by the federal government. Despite its relatively subdued performance since 2016, the housing market was caught off guard by a new round of regulatory tightening that was begun by the government in the year 2020. In particular, the 3 Red Lines guideline implemented in August 2020 put a significant damper on the developer's ability to secure financial backing. It places stringent limits on the annual growth of interest-bearing obligations that can be incurred by developers. These limits vary depending on the developer's various financial conditions, such as ratios of debt to assets, net debt, and cash to short debt. The housing market took a significant hit as a result of the regulations, and as of September 2021, prices had either remained the same or fallen in each of the 70 cities that the government monitored. The housing market continued to struggle throughout 2022 as evidenced by the 24.3% year-over-year decline in total sales and the 10% fall in investment made by real estate developers. Prices in first-tier cities like Beijing and Shenzhen have seen some increases recently, while those in second- and third-tier cities have remained relatively stable. The real estate industry was pushed to the brink of collapse as a result of a combination of factors, including previous rapid expansion and overborrowing by developers, as well as restrictive measures taken by the government regarding financing. This led to increasing operational and financial difficulties for developers, the suspension of projects, and widespread boycotts of mortgage repayment. The inertia in the real estate market has also increased the financial risks for local governments, which have traditionally relied on revenue from property transfers. Between 2016 and 2019, revenue from such transfer fees ranged from 28 to 42% of the total collected by local governments. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the figure increased even more, reaching approximately 45% at that time. The housing market continued to struggle in 2022, which resulted in a further weakening of the budgetary posture of local governments. As a result of this, local government revenue from land transfer recorded an annual loss of 23.3% in value terms. While the central government of China focused on mitigating the dangers posed by growing prices and increased financial leverage, the governments of China's cities worked to develop locally tailored solutions to mitigate the adverse effects of shocks specific to their areas. Over 300 communities across the country have issued various housing market support measures since the beginning of 2022. These measures include the removal of various purchasing restrictions. In Beihai, the minimum required down payment for the purchase of a second property by a household was reduced from 60% to 40%. Cities have also incorporated housing-related supportive measures into their policy packages in other areas, such as care for the elderly, promotion of fertility, or talent acquisition. In the city of Jingzhou, the elderly were urged to move in with their children or other relatives so that the latter may become eligible for an additional housing purchase. This was done so that the city could accommodate more people. The municipal administrations of communities that have had construction stoppages and boycotts have established specialized funding and departments to assist in the resolution of the situation. Following the 20th Congress of the CPC, which took place in November 2022, the leadership of the organization reiterated the importance of the real estate sector and pledged to stabilize the housing market. Late in December, the government announced the 16-point rescue package, which was intended to assist the industry and went into effect in January 2023. The package established new regulations for personal housing loans and financing measures for cash-strapped developers, such as a temporary lifting of limitations on bank lending. In addition, the package established new laws for the financing of affordable housing. In addition, it offers cities the autonomy to change their minimum loan rates or remove constraints for households on their first purchase if the city's housing prices have decreased for 3 or more consecutive months in a row. The rapid expansion of China's real estate sector has made a significant contribution to the country's economy. However, the sector is also plagued by several issues, such as skyrocketing housing prices, excessive reliance on revenue from land sales by local governments, opaque and high financial leverage, and the interest burden on developers. Since 2021, the lackluster performance of the housing market has presented new obstacles to real estate developers, municipal governments, and homeowners alike. This will occur simultaneously. That's all for the video. We'll be right back. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.